Silicon Valley experiencing some pretty big political polarization this election season, just like pretty much everywhere else in the country. Elon Musk and Mark Cuban have jumped into the fray. Others, like Meta's Mark Zuckerberg, seemingly doing their best to try to stay out of the limelight. Joining us right now on the 2024 dynamics in the Valley and in big tech, Chris Kelly is here. He's the founder of Kelly Investments. He's Facebook's former general counsel and chief privacy officer, now involved with crypto for Harris. Good morning to you.
Thanks so much for having me.
What do you think has happened in the Valley? There was always sort of a sense that it was a libertarian environment for a long time. Then there was sort of a view that it had moved very left.
Right.
And now it seems as divided as ever and maybe has moved right. I don't know.
I think that there's been a lot of movement from folks who had a more libertarian viewpoint to adopt some more conservative positions or what Trump conservatism has come to look like. But I think that there's always been a solid base of pro-business moderates who just want to make sure that we're doing fantastic things to further the economy. And I think that that's where, Kamala Harris has ended up leading the pack and is actually drawing people, including Ben Horowitz at Andreessen Horowitz, back into the fold a bit.
Yeah, can you explain what happened there? Because we talked about it at the time when Ben Horowitz and Mark Andreessen came out quite publicly for former President
Trump. A full
Trump.
podcast.
Yeah.
And then I think that Ben has known Kamala for years, and I think sort of said, hey, there's a real possibility that she's going to win this thing, which I still think is the most likely outcome, and that she actually has been pro-innovation over time. And
okay. By the way, you're a numbers guy. You just said you think that she's going to win, and you feel confident about it. Why do you feel confident about that? We look at obviously the polls. You can look at betting markets. You can look at all sorts of. You're in the crypto business. I don't know what you think the Bitcoin's rise signals.
No, I think that what's happened is I also know a lot about politics and what it actually takes to win a race. And she's just got a much better ground game than he does today. And the reason he's melting down right now on Truth Social is that he's behind in Pennsylvania, and he knows it now. So I think you're going to see a lot of fulminating this week, and I think that you're going to see a big turnout. But I think that she's certainly in the better position. I'd much rather be her than him at this point.
Chris, just in terms of what we have seen from the Biden-Harris administration and what you see at the Department of Justice, going after some of the big names in Silicon Valley, maybe smaller entrepreneurs there are in favor of this, but how does that play out among investors? Not to mention what you see from Lina Khan, too.
Exactly. I think there have to be a variety of discussions about the way that this administration has gone about particularly in the crypto businesses. I mean, that obviously
Gary Gensler at the SEC.
Exactly. Gary doesn't have any fans in Silicon Valley, and he shouldn't. It's been a regulation by enforcement is always a failed strategy. But Harris has signaled that she wants to make sure that we are innovating in blockchain, that we are leading in America on that, and as has Trump. I mean, he's come around after calling crypto a scam to being quite, aggressively in favor of it. Which
but how does she feel about Lina Khan and the Department of Justice, and
so that I'm not sure about. I mean, I haven't talked to her about it. We built a relationship after I ran against her in 2010. That's what I left Facebook to do, was actually to run for Attorney General in California against her, and losing the Democratic primary after I think making a decent showing, but. I think that there are a whole bunch of agreements among moderate Democrats and moderate independents that we need change in that area, and I think that's been expressed to her by Mark Cuban and by myself and others. And I think you'll see change. I'm not sure that there will be a replacement for Lina Khan, but I certainly think there will be a replacement.
So you're a moderate Democrat, right? And you ran against her. Did she run as a moderate Democrat?
At that point, I wouldn't say that she did, but she was a law enforcement.
What was she then?
So she had been the San Francisco district attorney.
So she was not moderate.
I wouldn't say that she's not moderate at this point.
Back then. Did you run with the right or left of her? You were totally right?
It's a little bit hard to say. I ran to a very innovative strategy, being skeptical about her coming out of the San Francisco political establishment, that she would be innovative. And as it turned out, as Attorney General, she ended up doing some quite innovative things.
But now you view her as a moderate Democrat.
At this point.
You do?
Yeah. Yep. Okay.
How come that there are so many people, you just think it's just nasty political rhetoric that she's a far left Democrat? She has had positions in the past that were far left. Many.
Yes, that's true.
But you believe that she's now evolved?
I do, and I think that her service as Attorney General in California and as U.S. Senator from California got her to understand the technology industry a lot better than she had perhaps when she ran initially. And that, how she actually governed was not a threat to the industry.
Okay, I'm just talking about tech and things like that. There was a lot of
slightly different question for you, because we've been talking more recently about it, about sort of the shift in the way that CEOs, public company CEOs, oftentimes, obviously, you don't run a public company.
I don't.
Bill Ackman doesn't run a public company. Mark Cuban doesn't run a public company. Elon Musk does, interestingly.
Yes.
But you have something that has shifted in this world, which is public company CEOs seem to not be willing or want to enter the fray in the way that they might have before. The kind of thing maybe a Mark Zuckerberg might have said in the past. We talked about how in the old days Jamie Dimon would make donations in his own name. Warren Buffett was out on the campaign trail many years ago for Hillary Clinton, quite vocally so. And there's now big questions about, Jeff Bezos owns the Washington Post and what's going on with endorsements or not endorsements.
Right.
So, what do you think the role of a business leader should be in this election and in elections broadly?
Well, I think in this election, unfortunately, sort of a culture of fear has begun to pervade statements. I mean, when Mark is threatened by Trump with jail time over the possibility of him doing anything in the election, when Elon's got not just his thumb but his whole body weight on the scale showing Trump propaganda on X at this point, it's hard for people to say.
But nobody wants to be a fascist or a Nazi either.
Well,
do they?
They certainly don't want to be.
Right. So if they overtly or openly back Trump, they're Nazis. They're garbage.
I don't think that's the case. At least for most of the way that most people react. I think
you haven't seen people being called Nazis or fascists lately. You haven't.
I've seen a little bit of that.
A little bit.
Yeah. But I don't think that an average voter or an average executive in Silicon Valley takes it that way.
If you think that this election is as consequential as I think you do, don't you think that the people who are, frankly, the wealthiest in America should be the bulwarks? Meaning, to the extent that they should feel like they can stand up and say whatever they think. That may be, by the way, that they are voting for Trump or voting for Harris, but that this sort of everybody being beat into submission thing, is that good for democracy or not?
I think it's terrible for democracy, and I think that we need to have a major reset after this election. I think that what we're doing right now is unfortunately kind of baked, and it's not going to be pretty for the next week, and I hope that doesn't get extended much. But I do think we need a full reset in America to think about how public people, make their statements about how they're voting and what they believe about democracy.